Hey everyone, and welcome to r/AmITheButthole, the place where, as I hope you all know by now, we get to judge strangers on the internet and hopefully have a bit of fun. Now, I know you all absolutely love this sub, so I won't be wasting another second and get straight into this first one by user/status interaction 571. Basically, I stopped having a relationship with my dad after he ran off with another woman and had a bunch of kids with her. I was 13, old enough to choose, and decided to live with my mum full-time after I couldn't tolerate his girlfriend's presence anymore. I was a miracle pregnancy, conceived after 12 years of marriage and 8 years of trying, so I've got no other siblings. They never did get married, but ended up having a couple of kids. The youngest is a toddler. I don't know them, I've never met them. 10 years later, I get a call from the girlfriend, sobbing, claiming that my dad was sick and wanted to talk to me before he died. The butthole wanted his family back again, minus the original wife of course. My mum encouraged me to meet him one last time. So I talked to him over call and told him that I would show up and be there with the family in the last days and after his passing, on the condition that he wills me 50% of the assets. I would only agree to meet with him in the presence of a lawyer in an official capacity. He was desperate, so he agreed. I knew he would never give a single penny to my mum, so this was the only way for me to secure 25% of his estate for my mum. She worked her butt off to support him for 10 years, only to get discarded for a younger model. He agreed. I showed up to the meeting, the lawyer was present, and the girlfriend kept sneering at me. I didn't care though. I walked out happy. And as my good luck would have it, my dad slipped into a coma 2 days later, never to wake up. His girlfriend kept calling and texting me to help her out with a funeral. I blocked her number. The other day, I ran into her at the bank. She confronted me and called me a horrible gold digger. According to her, I was the reason my dad was never happy and present for his new family. She also blamed me for all the problems in their relationship and that I betrayed my father on his deathbed. Am I the butthole? And here's an interesting edit. Mum never got a fair settlement during the divorce. He had assets, spent a fortune on his mistress, from the marital money and my college fund, and fake filed for bankruptcy. To be honest, with everything OP's said, I want to say, not the butthole OP. Your dad was definitely the butthole from what I can tell when he left your mum, and, well, there's no taking that back. As for you, I can sort of see why people would see you as a butthole, but personally, I think you laid out some conditions and your dad accepted them. I mean, maybe was it morally wrong to impose this 50% of his assets condition just for him to see you? I don't know. Personally, I want to say not the butthole OP, especially compared to all the things that your dad did. It seems almost fair. And here's the next one by user/glittering sign 5571. I, 30 female and a lesbian, was alone in my apartment this summer because my roommate, 26 female and straight, was back at her home but still paying her portion of the rent. I'm not a clean person and the whole thing was getting messy, but since I'm still working, I got the idea of hiring a nude cleaning lady, since I've seen such a service advertised in alternative papers. I called her up and set up an appointment shortly before my roommate returned. She showed up, middle-aged but still decent looking, and actually did a great job while I watched and got my jollies off at the end. I paid and tipped her well. Well, then my roommate returns. She's impressed the apartment is so clean. I told her, oh, well, I didn't actually clean it myself. I hired a nude cleaner because that was kind of the only way to motivate me. She was like, what? And seemed upset that I would ever hire such a business, and at one point said, that's such a straight guy thing to do. I had to suppress a chuckle because it's kinda true. She seemed upset that I would do such a thing and that it's trashy and degrading. She still seems kind of upset. So, was I the butthole? Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with the comments on this one. I'm gonna go a slight you're the butthole OP, not for hiring the service, but for telling your roommate, like, come on, just unnecessary information. Unless, of course, you have a very close relationship with your roommate, as in, you know, a good friendship where you're comfortable telling each other these things. I don't really think it's necessary. Just happy if you'd said you'd hired a cleaning service, it would have seemed like a nice gesture, just something you did for your roommate just to make sure she comes back to a clean house. Would have made it a whole lot nicer and avoided this little situation. And here's the next one by user/Milvin12. For some background, I've been dating my boyfriend for a couple of years now, and overall we've gotten along really well. He lives on a small to medium-sized farm with goats, chickens, cows and etc., while I live a few miles away in a more residential area. When I was over at his place last night, I noticed that he had 3 small packages by the door, ready to mail out. I asked him what they were, and he just casually explained that they were buck rags that he was selling for some extra cash. Now, I've never lived on a farm myself, but I've lived in rural areas enough to know what buck rags are. For those who don't know, they're rags that are rubbed on billy goats, usually during rut when they're extra stinky. They're used in goat breeding. If you don't have any buck goats yourself, you can have your does, lady goats, smell the buck rag and see their reaction to see if they're in heat. I also happen to know that buck rags are used by some people to punish their children, by making the child smell the buck rag as a consequence of bad behaviour. Naturally, I was curious how this arose. He mentioned that he saw a post on Craigslist offering to pay for a buck rag, so he thought he'd go for it since it was easy money. Then he said within 3 days, 2 other people in close proximity to the first client contacted him and requested a buck rag of their own. Now, I felt confident that these buck rags weren't being used for goat purposes. 2 of the addresses on the packages had apartment codes on them. People who own goats don't live in apartments. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. My theory is some mother, all 3 names on the packages were female, bought one of these to discipline, read torture her kid, told her friends about it, and then they wanted one too. So, being concerned, I brought this up to my boyfriend. I told him, look, don't you think it's weird that people who live in apartments are asking for buck rags? You know some backwards people who use these things to punish children, right? I was surprised that he didn't seem concerned at all. He said he knew that was likely and even had sort of figured that out himself. But it wasn't his business. Buck rags are perfectly legal as a disciplinary tool and etc. I got really angry. Why was he okay selling these rags to people who were going to use them to hold under kids' noses? I told him that was abhorrent and that he needs to make sure these are going to be used for the intended purpose. But he was just dismissive and said I was overreacting. And that they're a worse punishment than buck rags anyway, and I can't even verify if they're using it for that. So we thought for a few more minutes, and I ended up storming off and driving home. He texted me again today like everything's fine, but I don't know how to feel. If we have kids, is he going to buck rag them? Did I overreact, or am I right to feel this way? Damn, this is a tough one for me to decipher. I almost feel like going no buttholes here. Because I can understand the way you feel, OP, and the sort of need to make sure that children aren't getting buck ragged. It definitely doesn't seem at all pleasant. Actually, it seems very, very unpleasant, and just not a good thing to do to your kids, not even as a disciplinary measure. But on the other hand, I'd also understand your boyfriend's point of view, which says it's none of your business. That's why I've sort of leaned towards no buttholes here. Personally, if I knew that I was selling buck rags to people who were using it to discipline their kids, I wouldn't do it. But at the same time, I can see the logic in the argument, so, as much as I sort of don't want to say it, I'm going with no buttholes here. And here's the next one by user/fresh pianist. Hi everyone, I'm a 43-year-old man, and my girlfriend is a 36-year-old woman. We've now been in a relationship for just shy of a month. 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend and I decided to get tested for venereal diseases, seeing as we had just started seeing each other. This is something that all couples should do, obviously, but considering the current situation, it was kind of hard to get appointments. We had something to do in the city, about 2.5 hour drive away from where we live, so we figured it was as good of a time as any. Our results came back through the doctor's office website the other day. Seeing as I have not been in a relationship for many years, I tested negative. She, on the other hand, tested positive for something that is easily curable. At first, she was incredibly apologetic, but I can't see why. She didn't do anything wrong. She was given the disease at no fault of her own, mainly because her ex was a huge piece of trash. I am fully on board with just getting her treated and well again. The problem right now is that my girlfriend has worked in pharmacy in the past and knows a lot of the people at the drugstores. Being a small town, people talk, and her going in to pick up a prescription for the medicine to treat it could lead to a bunch of rumours. As she describes it, worst case scenario, it could get back to her family. She wants me to go to a certain pharmacy and wait for the person at the counter to change to a specific person who doesn't know her name, give the script, and leave. She says that being seen there getting medicine will bring up some speculation and they may end up asking the technician what it was for, which may lead to her illness coming out. I think she's being overly paranoid, but she keeps begging me to go because nobody there knows me. But the way I see it, and as I told her, I just don't think it's on me to take the hit for her. She thinks I'm a total butthole now and is driving 2.5 hours to the city to pick up her medicine. But since I can't ask anyone else I know about this, I figured I'd ask here. Am I being unreasonable or ridiculous? Okay, OP, I get it that you're not technically obliged to do anything, but seriously, it doesn't seem like that much of a deal getting a prescription for your girlfriend from a specific person. Sure, it's a bit of a hassle, but what do you value more? If you value your relationship, this is something you should be willing to do. If not, well, then you can do whatever you want. But going like this, I'm not sure if this relationship is gonna last. And here's the next one by user/physicalloss7706. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I teach in-person classes that are socially distanced, as well as online classes. Last weekend was my 27th female birthday. I went to a restaurant with a couple of friends for outdoor dining. While we were there, two mums come in with their children and are seated behind me. I recognize them as students in my in-person class. They say hi to me, and I say hi back, but then we don't interact further. Throughout dinner, I'm just enjoying my time with my friends. I have a few glasses of wine and get a little tipsy. Not rowdy or obnoxious or anything. I'm conversing normally with my friends, occasionally using cuss words like F or poop or damn. Not excessively, just the same way people would in everyday conversation. Maybe a little more than I would have if I were not tipsy, but again, I'm not speaking loudly or anything. Just having a normal conversation with my friends. One of the mums then comes over to me and reminds me that my students were there and that I shouldn't be drinking and cursing in front of them. Since I'm a teacher, it was my job to set a good example to them. I just told her I was off the clock and that if I wasn't bothering her, she could move or stop listening to me. She got all huffy and they soon left. Earlier this week, I was called down by the principal, who was with the mum in his office. She was angry and complained that I was setting a bad example for my students. And now her daughter was using some of the same words I was using, saying that if her teacher can say it, so can she. He asked for my side of the story, and I just explained exactly what happened. Given that she verified my story, he told her that I was not their teacher at the time, and since I wasn't doing anything wrong, they couldn't control my behaviour off the clock. She protested a bit, but eventually left, but called me a terrible teacher. I thanked the principal for backing me up, but then he suggested that maybe that one time I should have just stopped drinking and using foul language. I really don't think this was a problem, since I wasn't acting out. Just talking casually and enjoying a couple glasses of wine. But am I really the butthole for drinking and using foul language in front of my students while off the clock? Yeah, look, OP, I'd say what it sounds like is that you had a couple drinks with friends and you were just having a good time, couple of curse words mixed in, whatever. I personally see no problem with it and will go not the butthole. My guess would actually be that this mum is a bit of an entitled parent, and I think her kids may have just learned those curse words from her, and now she can just shift the blame onto you, OP. I mean, that's just speculation, but if you're being reasonable at a restaurant, I don't think that would have made any sort of a difference. Like, her kids could have heard that from any table, and I mean, what, was the mum gonna come up and ask for them to stop swearing? That would straight away spring an r/entitled parents post. And guys, I think that post is going to be the last one for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for Reddit videos once every week. That's right, Reddit videos, they may be rare, but they're still coming up once every week. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am, and if you are, make sure to leave a like, really helps out getting a couple extra views. But with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and all I want to do is see you all here next time. See you later, guys.